So learning siSwati for me wasn't the easiest thing, but it definitely wasn't the most difficult thing. I found that just jumping in there and trying to learn siSwati and trying to keep up with conversations and forcing people to speak siSwati with you, that's one of the best ways to learn. So in that regard, people are really, really helpful.
Not easy, but I found myself wanting to learn it. It helped a lot that my parents, that one of my parents doesn't speak English. So my host, Babe, he doesn't speak English. So if I wanted to talk to him, I need to at least make a little bit of an effort. And the thing that's great with most Swazis is that they see you making an effort. So even if you like fail miserably at speaking siSwati, they appreciate the effort. Having people that don't speak English definitely helps.
I found the initial process of learning siSwati relatively easy. The sounds were different, some of the clicks and things, but in general, I think it's an relative to things like Latin. It's an easy language because grammatically it follows very similarly to English. When grammar's the same and you can just kind of plug in Swazi words where you would have an English word, it does make it relatively quick to learn. You just do some vocab. Where it's been difficult has been learning it fluently. I think that has more to do with, less of an ability to learn in my community because my family speaks English well, and so the nuances that I would want to convey, it just doesn't make sense to talk in siSwati.
The siSwati I learned is more fun than the one they try to force you to learn. You're using a lot more basic stuff. You're just doing greetings and building relationships. So the siSwati that I fall back on is like phrases, like "tao ko na" or "unugan jeng suto." You smell like a fart, right? Like for kids, or just "how ilalegwami" if anything goes wrong. Like expressions is what I go for.
A lot of having a handle on the language is just being fluent in greetings. Most of the interactions that I have in siSwati are just basic greetings, and that goes a long way because that demonstrates that you've put in a modicum of effort into fitting in locally and not just like putting your language and your culture on the people that you're trying to communicate.
Exclamations, deeper siSwati. I think that's the way to most people's hearts here, I find. Gwanza gwaliwa batsagati. Just means thank you. But it's like, thank you for doing this thing at the risk of earning the spite of evil people who will now be going after you for your kindness to me. It's a complicated thought, but it's Gwanza gwaliwa batsagati.
Funny story. So I teach in my school in Southwest Swaziland, shout out to Mankayane, and we were sitting in the staff room one day. Typically conversation within the staff room is all in siSwati. One day I finally understood what was going on, and there was a debate going on about where a man should take a woman on a first date. And not only did I understand the conversation, I had input because one of my colleagues said, no, a man needs to take me to Summerfields. That's a very nice place by Swazi standards, very nice place by many standards, very expensive by Swazi standards. I said, no, how about we go to KFC? And all this is in siSwati. And she said, I can buy KFC for myself. I said, what about Debonair's or Spur? And she said, no to all of that. That being able to jump into that conversation and say, no, that's ridiculous. So needless to say, we still haven't been out on a date.
When I'm able to have full conversations with my Babe who doesn't speak any English, when I realize that him and I are able to literally spend an entire moment, however long that is, together without anyone translating, and granted, he's talking to me probably like a 2-year-old, but regardless, he understands my language abilities, and being able to just have a full conversation in siSwati with my host father was probably that moment that I was like, all right, picking up on this.
I think the day that we first rode public after training on our own, so our counterpart brought us to our community, we stayed there with our family, and then the next couple days after that we were in charge of going and getting furniture on our own. And I got in the Kumbi, I had a conversation with the Bhuti about what I needed. I got to the place I wanted the furniture from, I had a conversation there about where I was going, all pretty much in siSwati, with a very little English, and that felt pretty comfortable. Mabadvu Badvu, which means multicolored. I really like that. And then it's Makanda Kanda, but it's proper name for a 7-headed snake.
I have picked up the phrase Nesi shame, which is basically the siSwati equivalent of sorry not sorry. And especially kids in the classroom, like when I'm teaching and I use that, like the kids go crazy, like they laugh so hard.
Niti Plaza. I'm embarrassing myself. So if ever like I'm feeling like I'm either not abiding by cultural norms or I just did something silly, or maybe if I just want to like break a little bit of an awkward moment, I'll just say that, and Swazis love it.
So one of my favorites is Hawilele Guami. And so it's like, Hawilele Guami. Oh. And that's if something went really wrong. It's like, woe is me.
Guting ginge, which means like no problem, or like there is no problem. So it's just like a really common thing to say if someone's like, oh, like this didn't work out. Especially here in Swaziland, like, you know, a lot of things we can't really control. So it's a nice phrase to know, just being like, okay, guting ginge, like it's all good, you know, no problem.
It's all good, but also Nesi shame.
yeah. So they kind of go hand in hand. Yeah,
They do.
Yeah.
Calling my younger sister Sikoloani, which means it's an insult, calling her a stray dog that steals people's chicken eggs. So figure out how to use a language and make it into something fun, and people appreciate it, but you gotta be smart when you're using it.
Swati beats English because they have a word for silent fart. English, we only have phrases, you know? Like, you crop dusted us, or like, you passed gas, or who cut the cheese, right?
Yeah.
It's tuisha. So I always like, sometimes when I'm with kids, I'll be like, ooh, tuishile. You know? Like, I accuse them of silently farting, or something along those lines. I think that's a favorite. It's one that I probably learned the second day I was here, and surprised all the language people, because they're not teaching that.
So my favorite word in siSwati is umnagetfu. And umnagetfu is like saying my brother, but it's very, very close. It's very, very dear. So when you greet someone, so anyone can be Bhuti, which is brother. Anyone can be Bhutiwami, which is my brother. But the deep bond that you have with someone, when some of my neighbors, when my host brothers, when other male teachers, and even some female teachers greet me, hey, umnagetfu. That's just very, very powerful because it shows a certain level of care and concern and connection that is just really, really powerful.